So to start with, some of the things that we take for granted, and probably that to start with, the first one is the image resolution and video format, Steve.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a world now where there are a myriad of resolutions. You know, I remember HD was going to make this simpler for us. I think there are more HD flavors than there were of standards that kind of came before it. So not only have we got the challenge of image resolution, we've got the video standards that go with those resolutions. 3G level A, level B, dual link, 6G.
6G, 12G. I mean, 2SI, quad. I mean, that's just, physical formats of the transmission and how we package the transmission. It gets even worse than this.
Color systems.
Yeah, I mean, it just were you supposed to deliver it in 422, or is it master quality and you're supposed to be delivering this thing in RGB 444? And you mess up.
Bit depth.
Yeah.
10-bit, 12-bit. You know, it's never ending. And as you know, you've alluded to as well, you've got frame rates and the scanning.
Yes.
And these are probably just the most common ones that are used.
Yeah. And look how many different formats there are, especially when you get down to, the progressive formats or the PSF formats.
You see, because a lot of these editing products and that, the video timelines are sort of just agnostic. You just put video on and you play it. And the only time you kind of find out that there might be an issue is when you go to publish that particular edit. And then suddenly it starts popping up messages saying rendering, because a video on there doesn't match your deliverable timeline.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that piece you just mentioned about rendering, because really none of this frame frequency piece is part of the render, or is part of the editing timeline process.
One of the interesting things is that lots of these software-based editing solutions now, the timelines are basically format, frame rate, they're agnostic. So you just keep dropping clips onto the timeline, you do your edit, and the only time you find out that you might potentially have an issue is when you do that good old traditional print to tape, and suddenly up comes rendering, because certain clips on that timeline do not match the format or frame rate. Now, yes, that can be an issue, because it may be that you're having to deliver and prove that the content was originated in a certain format and frame rate and resolution and bit depth. And if you've now suddenly rendered out, customers and their third-party QC houses have tools that can pick up and spot clips that have been, should we say, altered, or maybe aren't in the original format.
Yeah. Or you're delivering this directly to, let's say, a streaming company, and you give them a package that's supposed to air, and their entire encode process for the streaming system can't handle the frame rate, let alone color format that you're handing them.
Now, one of the great things we have on the Leader products is that you can actually set an alarm. So you can set the device to your operating frame rate, color space, bit depth, all of the parameters we've just talked about. And if it encounters video that doesn't match that 100%, you get a warning, you get an error message. Now, it doesn't mean that it's wrong, and you've still got pictures and that, but it's giving you a heads up that that clip is not the format that you basically told the device you were working to.
Yeah, it's not illegal. It is legal video, but it was not what was expected as the deliverable. And the neat thing is you don't have to necessarily set each one of these things up each time. You can save it as a preset. So you could have a preset for every single possible delivery format and say, hey, this is what the scope's supposed to be looking at, and make sure that it is looking at that.
Yeah. So this is just kind of the first of the tools that, you know, people take.
And these are the types of things that you're not going to get with the internal scopes inside the software, because none of this exists sitting on that timeline when it's looking at what's happening on the timeline rather than what's happening when you've exported this video.